So what we're gonna do in this video is basically break down the 3 different key personality types: assertives, accommodators, and analysts. How to actually sell them like tactically. If you're an assertive, you can only sell to assertives. You get the picture. And that's why, fucking crazy enough, the most common close rate, the average industry standard close rate is about 30%. Which is a third of the fucking world. So if you wanna close at 50%, at 60%, at 70%, at just north of 40, you have to know how to sell to the 2/3 of people that aren't like you. So this is how you actually weaponize this information to triple your close rate. You need to know these 2 things here. So first things first, so an assertive, I'm gonna focus on them first and go all the way through this bad boy. So assertives are like they're usually like people in power. So these are like your football coaches of the world, your principals of the world, your state cops of the world. Like usually business owners are assertives. I'm probably a little bit of an assertive. This is generally like who that person fundamentally is. Like they're assertive, they're damn near aggressive, right? So they view themselves as like confident, masculine, leader, like fucking Andy Elliott motherfuckers, like these types of guys, macho men, like this type of stuff. So they view themselves and they just kind of their character traits are like direct to the point. So that's how you can identify them. You probably think of 50 people in your life where you're like, oh my God, they're definitely an assertive. But how do you actually leverage this, right? Like how can you be like, okay, like this person is an assertive, how do I sell to this person, right? You have to attack their ego, and I'll explain why, right? Their ego is so important to them. They have to be this macho man, or even if it's a girl, like there's still girls that are leaders and like, ooh, you know what I mean? Like, you know, got some Hulk shoulders, something like that, little linebackers. They have this ego of like, I'm the shit. So you can weaponize and leverage their ego because they think they're the shit. You can put a negative label on them. And if you put a negative label on them, that's a tactic to actually get these people to close. Let me explain. If they say, this is actually a prime example of someone where I was gonna close them and we got to the end of the call and he's like, do you have any payment plans? I was like, man, a guy like you? Like that, I'm sorry, I just kind of caught me off guard. You're kind of like this big business owner guy, you know, you make all this money. Can you not afford it? Is that what this is? He's like, no. I don't need a payment. I can afford it. Like, oh, you asked for a payment plan. I kind of just maybe thought you didn't have the money. And, you know, I thought you were this big time business owner, you know, making all this money. So sorry, I just kind of assumed maybe you didn't have the money. You do? He's like, yeah, I do. I'm like, all right. Prove it, pay me, you know what I mean? So it was just a way of being like, oh, I'm this guy with all this money. Then he asked me for a payment plan. There's a negative label of someone who being rich and having all this money is his ego. And then to leverage that against him and giving him a negative label of like, are you someone who can't afford stuff? Like, are you not this big business owner you claim to be? Oh, okay, that's all right. They just threw me off, right? So that's assertives. They have this huge ego. They're super masculine. They like being in charge of things. They like running the show. The way to sell to them is to just leverage that huge ego that they have, put negative labels on them in order for them to basically decide, do I have to prove to them that I am who I say I am by paying? Or do I accept this negative label and then this person will always think of me as this type of person where I'm almost like a phony, like I'm a person that I'm not. I can't let that sit with me, so I'll pay just to prove my point. That is how you close assertives. When it comes to accommodators is like the golden retriever boyfriend meme, like I'm sure you've heard. These are like your friendly, like kind of your frat bros, like you're just really easy to get along with, you're really nonchalant, you go with the flow, you're talkative, you're friendly, that's who you are as a person, right? So they view themselves as someone who, you know, can light up a room, you're real nonchalant. So they're just likable people. And your leverage in these conversations is the friendship. So go heavy on rapport with these accommodators. Really get to know them, really build that connection, because at the end of the day, accommodators buy because they trust and they vibe with the salesperson. They vibe with whoever is selling to them. That's what makes them actually make purchases. But the tactic for this is a little bit of tough love, because the bad thing about selling to accommodators is because they're your buddy, if they don't want to buy it, they don't want to tell you they don't want to buy it because they're your buddy and they don't want to hurt your feelings. So they're going to say, hey man, I would love to. Dude, we get paid on Friday. Our client's paying off this really big invoice on Friday. Second that bad boy goes through, I'm in, let's go, I'm all for it, dude, 10 out of 10, this is awesome, can't wait to get started. You're like, oh, okay, we got this really good connection, got this good relationship, oh, we're gonna get started Friday. Then they fucking blue balls you. they lie to you because they don't wanna hurt your feelings. So you gotta give them a little bit of tough love, and you need to like leverage the relationship and the connection that you have to call them out on their bullshit. Like for accommodators, you can't really focus on the words they're saying, but how they're saying them. their actions, their body language, because that's the truth. They put on these nice frosting and cherry on top because they don't want to hurt your feelings, and you need to see through that bullshit to actually be able to sell to this type of people. So a little bit of tough love goes a really long way. Hey man, like a prime example of this is like, yeah dude, like I just said, like I love everything. Today's Wednesday, I get paid on Friday. Dude, let's book a call for 30 minutes. I'm all in, come Friday, that's when I get paid. Like, okay, gotcha, man. So if you had the money, you're on this call right now, you would have pulled the trigger, and you'll notice their tonality. It'd be like, dude, I'm hearing, like you said yeah, but I'm not hearing yeah. What's your main concern? Seriously, dude. No, everything's great, man. Come Friday, like seriously, I'm all in. Love what you guys got going on here. I'd be like, dude, we built a little bit of a connection here. I can tell there's something off with things. I don't know if this is like a fear of you making the wrong decision. I don't know if maybe you've not told me something that's actually happening in the business. Like, can you fill me in here a little bit? Like, what's actually going on? Like, why are you not buying this? Because I'll be honest with you, dude, the whole paying thing on Friday, if you just want to tell me no, just tell me no, but I just don't think that's the real answer. Am I wrong? And they'll be like, all right, dude, this is actually what's going through my head. And then it's easy to close, right? So that's how we deal with accommodators. We give them a little bit of tough love. For the analysts, they are analytical. They are what you think they would be. Analysts are basically like your software developers of the world. They're these people that are just really analytical, like operations people are great, stuff like that. So they view themselves as super intelligent, like well thought out and well calculated. But a lot of how people view them is just like a little bit more reserved and like dry. And your leverage is to attack the productive procrastination that most analysts typically do. So the tactic for this, as far as like how to like actually sell to them, is giving them raw info, underselling, and something I call the bladder close. And what I mean by attractive productive procrastination, this is kind of similar to the negative label. It's pretty similar because basically most analysts, when you try to sell to them, they want every single fact, they want to know every single thing, they want to talk to 20 of your competitors, compare and contrast them on this massive whiteboard like me, build the Google Sheets of all the pros and cons and the ROI and all the shit and every single thing ever. And then in 3 months, they won't even make a fucking decision because they thought themselves out of acting. They think and they view themselves as like, oh, I'm so intelligent, I never jump on something too early, I'm so well thought out and calculated, I'm so intelligent. And they're almost intelligent to a fault. Like I'm sure you know someone from like high school that was crazy intelligent, you thought had all this potential, and now you're older and you're like, you're kind of not doing shit. It's because they think so much, they literally think themselves out of taking action, and action is what pays the bills. So these analysts, when they have this perception of, oh, I'm so well thought out and calculated, and I never make wrong decisions, because they don't make any decisions at all, they don't decide, they don't fucking act. So you can kind of use this against them. Be like, dude, is this like a common trait for you? You just like constantly think you're doing the right thing by waiting things out, making the right decision, getting more information, only to just wait 2 months and not actually do anything, and then you're just stuck in the same position? Like, is this like a recurring pattern for you? Fuck, it is? Okay, so we need to fundamentally change our identity as someone who actually takes action. Because you said, I'm just the type of guy who, that's always where prospects will tell you their actual identity. I'm just the type of guy who doesn't make a decision on the call. You're also the type of guy that's not making as much money as you want to be making. So I think we fundamentally need to change this identity if we want to make more money. We need to act more. Let's do it on the call. Let's change our identity now, right? So that's a good tactic that's kind of in the leverage section. It works really, really, really well when it comes to analysts. But also, when it comes to just throughout the entire call, you really want to undersell. What I mean by undersell is you don't want to say, oh my God, if we start running your Facebook ads, you guys are going to be at 2 million a month in no time, yada, 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 yada. Like every time you say something that would make them want to buy it, you need to assume that in the back of their head, they say bullshit. And then you want to have raw info, facts, and data to back up what you're saying, because their level of trust is just so low because they're so well thought out. They take everything you say with a grain of salt and they assume everything is bullshit until they prove it themselves by doing their own research. So anytime you say anything that's like, we get this result and this thing and our success rate is this high and our, people who fail is this low, they're like, bullshit. So if you back it up with a fact and you undersell it, they're like, oh, I don't even have to do research. This guy presented me the data to feel confident to pull the trigger. And the last thing here is what we love to call the bladder close. The bladder close, I couldn't even tell you how much money this has made me. What the bladder close is, if you guys don't know, I'll let you in on a little secret. The bladder close is where you're getting to the very end of a call, like you're selling on Zoom call, like kind of a high ticket sales type thing. You're at the very end of the call, you're at the very end of things, and they say, hey man, I just need to think about it. Or I'm sitting right here with my wife, I'm sitting right here with my business partner, I just need to talk to them, and then I think I'm good to go. You're like, okay, perfect man, I'll be honest, I gotta take a piss. I gotta go. You know, I need to fill up my water. I've been taking calls all fucking day. Let's just do this. I'll put myself on mute. I will take my camera and just like shut off my camera. I'm gonna go get a glass of water. I'm gonna go to the bathroom. I'll give you guys 3, 4, 5 minutes. Think things out if you just wanna think about it yourself, or talk it out with business partner, wife, whatever. I'll come back in a couple minutes and just let me know where your head's at. Is that cool? Cool. Because what analysts want is room away from you to think, and what you want is for them to not leave the sales call because you have the highest likelihood of closing right then and there. So you get this perfect balance where you get both. The prospect doesn't leave the sales call, they get space to think. It's a win-win. You come back in a couple minutes and they're like, you know what? Let's just do it. And it kind of feels silly to sit there not talking for a couple minutes. So they're just like, what am I doing? Like, they're like searching for a reason to not do it. And if you did a good job on the sales call, they can't find one, and they're rational. So like, if I can't find a reason not to do it, I should probably just do it. And if you attack his identity and like the leverage point here, which is attacking their productive procrastination, usually helps the deal go through the door. So now you know the 3 different personality types and how to close them. But okay, Garrett, now I know what assertives are. I know what accommodators are. I know what analysts are. I know how to close them, or at least one tactic that should help me put more deals through the door. And if you've been in this video so far, this will make you more money. Like, take notes, go back through this again, implement this shit. I promise you will make you so much money. It's pivotal to my sales career and having 60, 70% close rates. But there's 2 boxes here, Garrett. What are inside the boxes? What are inside these 2 boxes here is the thing that could take this information and help you make triple your close rate. Want me to share it with you? I thought so, because you're still watching. So, box number 1 is self-awareness. If you don't know which one of these 3 you actually are, none of this stuff matters. Because sell how you want to be sold to, if you don't know what box you're in and you're not self-aware enough to identify, am I an assertive, am I an accommodator, am I an analyst? You're gonna think, oh, I think I'm an analyst, so I sell to people like this, but you actually don't. You're putting yourself in the wrong box, and it's really hard to kind of match up with people, right? Box number 2 is emotional intelligence. It's being able to identify with the information that I gave you within a minute, within 2 minutes of being inside a sales call, which personality type this person is. I know within 2 minutes what personality type a person is every single time. And the way that I do it might make you laugh. It's literally just the small talk at the very beginning of the call. I'd be like, hey Mike, where you from? Where are you calling in from? If they're like, Dallas. Gotcha. Either this one or this one. If they say, well, I actually was born in Miami, but then we moved up north more to like Fort Lauderdale area, and then, you know, I really didn't vibe with Florida. We actually changed governors. I didn't really like him, so moved over to Texas, and I was in Austin for a bit. Austin has so many fucking homeless people, and now we're in Dallas, and man, Dallas is my spot. I'm like, I didn't need that whole story. You're an accommodator. So I can usually tell this one will stand out more than these 2. And then when it comes to deciding between these 2, if they like to try to control the conversation and like arm wrestle me to do it their way instead of my way with how I operate the call, I know they're an assertive. Whereas an analyst will just sit back and like analyze your behavior, will be very quiet, and it's kind of like, will not speak unless spoken to. It's like, if you're talking, you don't ask me a question, I'm not gonna ask questions. I'm gonna observe you to see if you reveal some information that will make me decide that I shouldn't buy this, because if I speak, I'm gonna show you my cards, and I just wanna analyze you and pick apart everything and collect my own data without you knowing what I'm looking for. It's like, I'm not gonna show you my cards. Whereas an assertive just wants to bulldoze you through the whole call, to like kind of test the line between what's acceptable and what's not acceptable, and try to step over that line the whole fucking call. So that is it for this video. This is how you triple your close rate. Because like I said in the beginning of this video, the idea that you should sell how you want to be sold to is bullshit. Because if you're one of these 3 people, you will only be able to close the person that is similar to you. If you're an assertive, you can only sell to assertives. You get the picture. And that's why, fucking crazy enough, the most common close rate, the average industry standard close rate, is about 30%. Which is a third of the fucking world. So if you want to close at 50%, at 60%, at 70%, at just north of 40, you have to know how to sell to the 2/3 of people that aren't like you. And that is it for this video. Now, if you haven't already, subscribe to the fucking YouTube channel. But lastly, most people struggle with one specific personality type, and I want you guys to comment below under this YouTube video what personality type you struggle with closing the most and why, and I'll respond to your comment with feedback on how to improve on this. So that's it, peace out.